What's up, man? That was pretty good. How was yours? So many 4-day weekends. Got another one. Yeah, we didn't. Let's see. We did some cleaning, some rearranging. That was about it. I mean, oh, that's right. All right. Yeah, no spoilers, man. Yeah, we didn't. All right, sounds good. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Prep because it's Monday, it's not Sunday. So, short week for the market, but yeah, a little bit of a busy one. We still get earnings coming up this week. We got some big ones, most notably Netflix on Wednesday. So, that'll be fun. So, starting things off on Tuesday, let's see, we have Goldman Sachs, we got Morgan Stanley. We also have Canadian CPI for all of our Canadian members out there. I think one of the main interesting ones on Tuesday is going to be Silvergate and uh, Silver SI. They're on watch mainly. Not only is it because it's a crypto name and Bitcoin's been a little bit of a hairy mess out there as of lately, but having a good run now. But I think that won't be too much of an impact on earnings season this round. But SI, they've been kind of intermingled with the whole FTX situation, but they've been able to sell off a bunch of their assets in order to cover some of their withdrawal requests. So I think that one's going to we'll get a little bit of an insight on how some of these crypto and blockchain guys are up to start things off. Interestingly, after the bell on Tuesday, Monster MNST, they are having their annual virtual investor meeting. This is actually typically this is a pretty important event, and last time they held one last year, they came out of it up 6%. So we definitely want to be mindful of that. Yes, still holding calls on MNST. We had a nice little push up on Friday, so we are definitely going to continue to monitor that situation. Then we get on to Wednesday. We get PPI data at 8:30, and we also have retail sales data. Then at 9:15, they sprinkle in the December industrial and manufacturing production numbers. And then at 10 a.m., they're going to sprinkle in the business inventory. So Wednesday is going to be a little bit interesting. We could get some movement. Well, we will get some movement, especially off of that PPI data. Thursday, that's when we have the Netflix earnings. I think I said Wednesday earlier, but it is Thursday where after the bell we get Netflix earnings. So that's going to be a big one to really kind of focus in on. I did read a report on Barron's. Barron's is feeling kind of bearish on Netflix. I think they said that the Netflix is going to have sub growth. So I think that's something that we will kind of pay attention to and focus in on. So, we'll see. Let's see here, and then 8:30 we get the Fed employment and business conditions for January. This isn't really a market mover, but maybe we'll see what happens. And then at 11 o'clock Eastern, Costco has a shareholder meeting right there in the middle of the day, so that's nice of them to do that. Friday is going to be actually the quiet day. We have our typical jobless claims at 8:30. As of lately, this hasn't been too much of a mover. It's just our weekly jobless claims number. Something to kind of keep an eye on, but as of lately, like I said, it hasn't been much of a movement maker for the most part. Next week, excuse me, next week is when we are ending our quiet period with the Fed, and we're going to have a whole bunch of Fed speakers next week. So uh, we do have like a few of the FOMC members speaking here and there next week, but none of the major guys like Bullard and Brainerd and all that. They'll be speaking next week, so we'll have to pay attention to what they're going to say next week, especially since we had our CPI data last week. But yeah, that is what we have to look forward to this week. So now let's kind of jump into a few things here. So uh, we've been talking about the importance of playing our key levels and having a if this then that mentality. It's been playing out to our advantage. We're not out here trying to predict bottoms. We're not trying to predict, are we going to crash soon? Is the dollar going to skyrocket higher? And I think that's all that noise is just for the birds. As a technical analyst and a sticking to that science, what we need to do is have our levels laid out for us, and then keep that. If we go above this level, we're bullish. If we go down below this level, we're bearish, and we'll take things on to the downside. And we cut out all the rest of the noise. We don't care about sure, in a way we do care because we have other things going on in our investment lives and such. So yeah, we do kind of point focus in on it, but as a technical analyst, especially as a trader, all that can be put aside, and we just look at these key levels, and that's been, really a profitable way to sustain and really make a business out of it. So that's kind of what we're at. Keeping true to our levels, and sticking to our thesis points, and that's what's been doing really well for us. And to prove our point last week, we were focusing in on SPY. If SPY gets above 385, then we can see 390 and 395 and so forth. Now we're pretty much at that same boat here. To kind of kick things off here, though, let's take a quick look into the futures. Futures right now are a little bit lower, maybe a little bit heavy. The ES here, they're trading in a little bit of a tight range between 40.17 and 40.10. So a really tight 17-point range. But you can kind of see that, on the NQ side, you got a little bit of more of a breakdown here, especially below 11,570, maybe a little bit of a bear flag breakdown. So we'll see if we do come back up to this prior support level, and this could act as a potential resistance level, and we head lower. So that's an idea that we kind of want to pay attention to during the overnight session. Of course, there's a lot of time between now and tomorrow morning, so we'll see. But yeah, so one thing that we want to just kind of go ahead and just review here real quick. Last week we had a really big run. We started the week off on Monday. We gapped up above the daily 50, and we shot back down and closed below it. And we thought, well, that's generally not a good sign. Maybe the bears want to try to send this back on down and get us all the way through to the bottom of the range. Well, we got this nice little hold. They tried to send it down, and then we popped back off, closing back above the daily 50. And from there, we just kind of went on, and we took on the daily 200. Now, what that kind of tells me is that, yeah, our short squeeze rally is in play. So now we're in the middle of this range, and it's a matter of, can the bulls continue to capture that momentum and push things forward. Now you'll see like this green line here. Let me zoom out here to our weekly chart here. This is our pretty much our year-to-date trend line. You can see that we have a series of lower highs and lower lows. So obviously we're still in a downtrend until we take on that 410 zone. So keeping that in mind, every time that we've come up and hit this trend line, we've gone lower. 1, 2, 3, 4. So fourth time, are we going to hit it and come way back down, maybe even come back to the weekly 200, maybe revisit these lows, or are we going to actually blast through it and push on up to this 410 level and try to a print a new high? Yeah, so very crucial spot here. We'll see what happens. There are a lot of things in favor for the market bulls here. Same thing here with the Qs. Now the Qs are pretty much still the worst index out there in terms of technicals and momentum, but they can also be some of the best outperformers, and we can clearly see that with some of these semiconductor names and guys like Amazon, Apple and Microsoft. They're still not above their daily 50, so we still want to keep a good close eye on it. But the Qs, technically speaking, it is still the worst index over up, but it can play catch up, especially if the Dow and the bonds continue to push. A lot of shorthand. A lot of names, excuse me, a lot of the most shorted names and beat up names are in the Nasdaq, but a lot of them look really, really good, and they're at interesting levels. And we'll definitely take a look at them because they're going to be mostly part of our watch list going into this short week and maybe beyond. So we'll see. But yeah, like I said, the Q's interesting spot here. Keeping with that if this then mentality, you can see here on the daily, we did get a nice close above the daily 50. Continue to push higher. Had a nice daily close on Friday. Now our next spot is, do we take on this 283 section? If we can take on 283, we pretty much get 287, 295 is going to be a big one, as well as that is where our daily 200 resides. So we definitely want to pay attention to those zones. Now let me go back here to the SPY because I know I did not mark my levels here for you to see them. So here, SPY, obviously the year-to-date trend line, that's going to be a pretty interesting spot. What we don't want to see here on the SPY is I don't want to see it really get below Friday's low, but I definitely do not want to see SPY have any kind of close below this daily 50, below 390. So below 390, it's game on yet again for the market bears, and we could possibly see this shoot way down with fast momentum. So we definitely want to pay attention to that. As far as the upside goes, 400 is going to be a psychological battle. Once you get above 400, that's when we start talking business towards this big spot here at 410, which we pointed out in the weekly chart here. If we zoom out, there you go. There's our key resistance level 1, 2, 3. There you go. 410 key resistance to the upside. That'll be a pretty big spot if we can get up to it. It doesn't have to be this week. It could be next week, but we'll have to see, especially with the short week. Moving on to the Dow Jones Industrial, hands down. If you can compare this to the SPY or the Qs, this is without a doubt your best looking index out there. It's been trading well above the main key moving averages. If we zoom in to the daily chart, we do have a weekly 21 EMA crossing above the weekly 50. Yeah, so very bullish altogether. Your next spot here is going to be 345. Once you clear 345, you're pretty much moving on to 348, maybe even 350. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as it holds 335, which is this daily 50 EMA, we're pretty much good. And that's one of the key things too that we want to really focus in on is how well does the market handle pullbacks. And we've talked about this before, especially when we get these nice moves to the upside, is how well can the market handle the pullbacks. Obviously, if it pulls back and holds, great, and then we can get some fresh legs and push on higher. But if we crack below this daily 50 here, that 335 level on the Dow, that could be very concerning. And then of course we want to see if that is confirmed with some major influencers there, such as your transports and such within the Dow. So watching 345 to the upside, watching 335 to the downside on the Dow. Let's move on to the small caps, the IWM. Very aggressive move. Here you can kind of see the same thing here we had, and you'll see this on all the indices and a lot of names out there. Nice little sideways action here, and we finally broke above these zones here, above 178. We took on the daily 50. We broke above that. We took on the daily 200. We broke above that. Now it's just a matter of, okay, what's next? Our next zone, obviously, 189.50, 190. Once we can get above this zone, you pretty much have decent moves to, let's kind of zoom out here so we can see what we're looking at. Yeah, 189.50 to 190 is what we're looking at for our resistance. Next up, we'll have 202, 200. Then, of course, this is going to be a big spot up here. 207 is going to be very tight. We fought with this level. I remember going back and forth on this. Was just crazy trading zone here at the IWM. 207.50 to 210. That's going to be a big battleground to the upside. But for the smaller term time frame, above 190, you can see 195 to 200, 202. That's what I'm going to be looking at for the IWM in general. So those are my main levels on the main indices. Still rating the Dow hands down the best looking sector out there. Let's go over to China, the FXI. This is your large cap China ETF. China continues to show strength. We've been saying this for a while now. Not be anything new here. 3250 is going to be our resistance level here. Once we see a break above 3250, possible gap move all the way up to 3350. And, we've been seeing some pretty good, powerful moves here, and most notably from Baba, who's just absolutely been trading huge off this 95 mark. Since then, we've traded from 95. We broke out of this zone here between 95 and 85. Nice little Darvis box here. Broken up to the upside, hit our first target at 105. Now we're at 115, looking for 120 to the upside. PDD, another China name, Pinduoduo. Nice breakout above 93. We tapped just shy of 100 there. But yeah, China, just in general, looking to make further progress above 35 towards 36. Looking at DAX, Germany. Why do we focus on Germany? Because Germany is the largest economy within Europe, and this, if Germany's doing well, Europe can do well, and if Europe's doing well, we can of course do well. It's a global market out there, of course. So Germany had this nice little zone breakout, looking pretty good so far. Yeah, sure, it's a little extended. We had the same situation when we made this move here. We saw that this was extended. Finally, we traded sideways, came back in, tapped the daily 50, and now we're breaking back up into this really interesting resistance zone. But once we get above this, we can still get some leg room all the way to this 15.6 level. So, watching Germany as far as that goes. But for the most part, this is another good sign here for the market bulls here for sure. Next on, let's take a look at the dollar. Incredible breakdown here on the dollar. We've talked about this big level here on the dollar for, I don't know, weeks now. This 103.50 level, previous breakout zone. We've been flirting with it for a while. We had this nice little trap here set up, and they just got smacked on down. Now we're coming back in to this 101.50, 101.40 support zone. So we'll see if this level holds up for the dollar. If we go out to a weekly chart here on the dollar, you'll see that. Let it load up first so you can see it. Otherwise, you can't. I need to put that on my soundboard. Weekly chart here, you have this nice little breakdown below the weekly 50. If we lose 101.40 here, there's really not much room until about 98, give or take. So I am going to be looking for this breakdown below 101 if we can't hold it, and see if we can't hold 98 to the downside. But of course, we'll take that in stride, and we'll see overall. Stunky McFadden, glad this is on YouTube so I don't have to get out of my hot tub. All right. At least you have you have a hot tub. That's kind of nice. But yeah, all right. So let's go on. You're gonna throw me off here. Crude oil. Let's go over to crude oil. Now we know energy's had a pretty interesting week altogether. CPI came out, and obviously a big notice that energy is coming down, mainly crude oil. So taking here at crude oil, interesting spot. It is trying to form a noticeable, a tradable bottom. I definitely like it more above this daily 50, the daily blue line here. That's your daily 50. If we can get another close above it, I like it even better. Yeah, that would put us above 80. I definitely want it to hold 76. If we do hold 76, can get a bounce, but above 80, I'm looking for 83 to be our next resistance zone there for crude oil. Let's see. Let's take a peek at natural gas. because natural gas has absolutely been a bust of a move. You can see here that we broke down into the lows here back below 4.7, came all the way down to 3.3. Now, if we take a look at our weekly chart, it's probably because I have about 100 charts loaded up right now. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I want to ask that question on air. Here on the nat gas, you can see that we did get this nice little breakdown below 495, and then yeah, then we went all the way to the weekly 200. This could act as a very interesting support zone here. You know, it's just a moving average zone, but if we can continue to fall down, I don't really see much until 246. So for that, I'm kind of staying away from some of these nat gas names, especially especially utilities for the most point. Let's go over to copper here. Copper, beautiful breakout. This is, of course, generally a good thing, but you know, we'll kind of make sure that they don't get too carried away because that is a thing. So let's kind of bring this into the daily chart. Let that load. Just all right, so big move above the $4 zone. You had this nice little Darvis box as well. You held the daily 50. You got the nice little daily 50 crossing back above the daily 200. A lot of people associate that as a golden cross. That is bullish. But yeah, for the most part, big move here on copper nonetheless. As long as it holds, even if we get a pushback to this $4 level and hold, we could very well shoot on higher. So this has been an absolutely rip roaring amazing move. Most signals on this are bullish, and honestly, this is the best copper has looked in months, if not a while. If we take a look at some of these copper names, SCCO, Southern Copper Corporation, I mean, this thing is just straight up, rocket. I mean, if when you talk about to the moon, this is literally that in a picture form. So SCCO, I'm definitely not a chaser up here. You wear tuxedo? Oh no. Uh, yeah, I'm not chasing up here. If anything, if you're not a player here, don't even think about trying to get in. Just wait for a pullback and then maybe consider let it build some support, maybe pull back to the 71, see if that holds. This is super extended. You're not in it. Uh, Look for another move. If we take a look at FCX Freeport McMoran, this is your other copper player. Another big move off that Darvis box 40 and 37.50. You held the daily 50 just nice, came into it and blasted all from there. Broke above this 43.50 mark here, prior resistance. Resistance. Now wait for a pullback, see if that old resistance acts as new support. If that is the case, you can continue to push higher up into that 48, 49 level, maybe even to the previous highs at around 52. So all in all, a pretty good move here by Freeport McMoran and Southern Copper. Of course, our next thing, of course, we will touch base on it is Bitcoin. Bitcoin, crazy move off of 18,650. Yeah, just skyrocketed all the way up to this key resistance zone here at 21.4. Got a little bit of rejection here. We'll see what happens next. My next zone here on Bitcoin is all the way up at about the 24,000 mark. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But for now, just kind of hitting resistance here. I'm still not much of a player. It's just not my cup of tea. We got crypto guys that are all for it. Of course, you can talk to them on long term and trading it. But these are pretty good levels to trade off of 21.4. See if it comes back in, or see if it pushes above and hits that 2400, that daily 200 zone. The 10-year, 2-year Treasury notes are still inverted. We know that nothing really good happens when that is the case. Do not ignore it. We've been saying it for really months now. We'll see what happens if they rip-a-roo and rip out of the inversion, so to speak. As far as the main focus goes going into the week, keep that if this then mentality. I gave you my levels there as far as the main indices go. SPY needs to hold 390. If it holds 390, look to 400. If you get above 400, you get to 410. despite the progress on our movement here to the bull side, if you take a look at the weekly time frames, like I said, we still have the key argument that this is still a series of lower highs, like so, and you're just kind of just gradually stair stepping on down. So we'll see what happens. Of course, if we break 410 or 4100 on the SPX, yes, we'll see what happens. Uh, yeah, it's definitely take note of the progress that the bulls have made. As long as the dollar holds below 103, that's good. VIX is continually making new lows. The VIX, though, the VVIX, the volatility of volatility, this one's kind of interesting. It does have some positive momentum divergences. So we want to kind of pay attention to that. If we do get above 83, I'd say that's something to take note of. But for the time being, VIX is kind of busted. It's trading right at the lows at 18. We can continue to push down, of course, but just something to kind of keep an eye on. As far as the sectors go, I still want to maintain a good key focus on our tech guys. I want to keep a focus on energy, financials. JP Morgan had a pretty interesting run off of their earnings report. As you can see here, Friday, big candle here, broke above our levels here. And, outside bullish engulfing candle here can continue to push higher above 144. That's our next spot. Once you get above that, you can pretty much take on the next spot at 150. 150, you get 160. So yeah, financials, pretty interesting move here. We still got Morgan Stanley and Goldman. As far as other guys go, Cat and our industrials, Dow names continue to be very impressive. Want to stay focused on that. I'm not too keen on playing the XLP, especially if we have this continued short squeeze rally, and that is because these are all guys that aren't beat up. If we continue to rally to the upside, I want to really focus in on the guys who are breaking clean levels and are really beat up, because the beat up guys are going to outperform, especially some of our big tech guys. Microsoft, like I said, it's not above our daily 50 just yet. Now, it can break above the daily 50, and if it does, we want to be aware of that, because above this 239.58 mark, really our next spot is about 245. So I'm definitely watching Microsoft for some potential. Amazon, uh, clean break above 97. We had this nice little resistance level laid out. Resistance finally broke above. Good clean move. And now the next question is, tomorrow, can this push back above it? If we do get a gap down, we'll check in on the numbers. But our next zone here is going to be 103.40. If this resistance becomes new support, I have don't have too much doubt that this will come up to test this next zone at about 103, 105. So definitely want to pay attention to Amazon this week, maybe even the next week, because it is a short week. Tesla, we'll see. Something continues to hold this thing down. It seems to have some trouble breaking above this 124.50 mark, above 124.50, 128.60, and so on, and can push even further. But we're so far extended. Obviously, bears are in control, but we could see some outperformance here on Tesla. We'll keep an eye on it. Of course, Tesla is aggressive to trade day in and day out, but it's also fun. So we'll see if we get a move above that 124.50 mark to start things off. Now, if we lose this 114.39 level, sure, I'd be more than happy to take it back down to that 101, 100 zone and retest the lows. So we'll see. Always a good possibility, especially with Tesla. You never know. Also watching semiconductors, NVIDIA, nice little push, got a nice close above the daily 200. Nice bullish move there. If we can get a move above this 170, there's a nice little gap fill towards 176, and really just kind of take care of all these guys, take care of that, take care of that, take care of that, and so forth. So we'll pay attention to NVIDIA. Also like Intel. A good one on my radar Starbucks. We did have this nice close above 107 last week, well, on Friday. Now, the next zone that once we can load up because charts are running slow, TOS. Let's see. Yeah, you can see it clear as day here on the weekly chart. Resistance, 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 resistance. 117. 50 here on Starbucks. So breaking nice little breakout above this 107 mark. Looking to see if this can capture the next move to the upside. Moving on to another one of my favorites that I posted in Discord earlier is CRM. Let's go to a daily chart here. Beat up name, but coming right up to a key resistance zone here, right at this 149.82, 150. This was a nice little gap down spot here, acted as support. Now we're coming up, resistance, resistance, resistance. We just kind of keep tapping this key level of resistance. We did get a nice little close below the daily 50. It looks good above 150 and try to take on this 160 mark, maybe even the daily 200 if we want to overshoot things. So I definitely want to pay attention to CRM. Moving on to Adobe. Adobe, very tight price action over the past few months, as you can see, between 317, 325, and about 345. Yeah, I really like this above 354. We can probably get in a little bit early if things, you know, hold true. Nice little gap fill at about 369, above 369. Dang she fine, if that's the rap song. You could hit this daily 200 here on Adobe. I really like the looks of this one. Nice tight price action, good key levels to work with. Of course, Meta, a good one. Meta has absolutely been, you know, really nice to play. We had this nice break above 124.67, move all the way up to 133. Above 133, we hit 138, pretty much taking on that 140 mark. Now, if we can clear this 138, yeah, 143. So we got a nice little spot here, 143 here to kind of work with. I got a question about Etsy. Sure, take a look at Etsy. Yeah, this one's looking just as good too. You had a nice move above this daily 50 here. Daily 50 crossed above the daily 200, so that's nice there. Let's see if we can get some key levels here on Etsy because I know Etsy is also a beat up name. So you could call this a nice little resistance zone here at about 135, 135, 140. Yeah, that looks pretty good here. Let's just zoom in a little bit. The magic, just some. There you go, 136.15, 142. Let's go to the weekly chart. Just take a peek at that. Yeah. Yeah. Once you start breaking above last week's high, I would like to test this resistance zone about 142.50. It's a little bit messy, but there's a lot of players here. 152, 153 as your next zone once you get above 142.50 on that. As far as that one goes, let me see. Momentum looks pretty good. It's still above the zero line, so that's good. MACD could be a little bit better, but not trying to be too picky. You got the positive stacked EMAs, so that's good. Momentum, yeah, looking pretty decent here. So, yeah, I like it about that 136.15. What I don't like is if you do get a close back under the daily 200 at about 123.40. If you do get a daily close below that 123, that daily 200, I imagine you shoot back on down to about that 112 and get this wick fill here. So kind of be paying attention to that to the downside. Mara, sure, we can take a look at that. Of course, Mara moves with Bitcoin, no doubt about that. And with the run that Bitcoin has had over the weekend, I imagine this is going to gap up, maybe even to that daily 50. I might write that down, see if I'm right on that prediction. I kind of think that it fades once it does open. But as long as Bitcoin's moving, these crypto names can continue to move. Like I said, we do have earnings on Silvergate SI tomorrow. That could be a key indication of what these guys are going to do. Yes, when it comes to like Mara and Riot, I really don't touch them. too much, right? It probably looks a little bit better than Mara. Let's go to Coin. These are your weekly charts. Yeah, even Coin. Shoot, if I had to pick between them, I'd probably pick Riot, to be honest with you. Right, it's a little bit more close to the they're all busted to smithereens, of course. Let's go to our daily charts. Let's go up to Mara. Yeah, good run here. Off the lows at $3 lows, you're now trading, you've ran over 100% over the past 2-3 weeks. It could use a little bit of a cool down. You're right here at resistance 840. Of course, it's going to gap up with Bitcoin running over the weekend. I'd say let it open and see what it wants to do next. Like I said, crypto's not my cup of tea, and I personally stay away from crypto. So, but as far as the technicals, yeah, I think it gaps up tomorrow. Good volume, of course. We've been trading at really big volume, above average volume. So, can this continue to run? Sure, as long as Bitcoin's running. I mean, that's always a good thing. But let's go here. I want to give you some key levels here. All right, so that's the key spot there around that 13 weekly 200. Yeah, that makes sense. So above 840, look for a push to 10. 10 will be a psychological, and then 13. I think that'll be my key spots there on Mara on that one. T time. Yeah, T, holding some position here on T. You had this nice little move here on T above 1950. You had a nice little trade, then you kind of did a little oopsie here and got back to that zone. You had a dividend payout here that kind of made things go a little bit lower there. Now looking to see if this 1950 spot can hold. You got a nice little gap to fill up to about 2050. Now it takes a lot to move T. It's just one of those. It just takes a lot for T to move. It's a slow mover. It's technically probably better to do covered calls here on T, or just buy the shares and play the dividend game. You do have earnings coming up, so kind of pay attention to that. But you have this nice little setup to where if you can continue to push, my next target here is 2050. Once you get above 2050, you're talking about 21 and some change there to the upside. So nice little setup. I don't really like it below this daily 50 with most things. Once you get below the daily 50, you're also pretty much right there below the daily 200 zone here. If that is the case, then you could see much lower prices, maybe even try to test this support level here at about 1770. But once you get below that, it gets really hazy. You got a lot of air down here to test out. So you definitely don't want this to break down. Otherwise, it's pretty much bad news. But of course, you can also just keep in an eye on the XLC communication sector in general. What studies am I showing? So I have the right on this one on your screen. I have the daily 50 and the daily 200 simple. And then I got others on other screens that I use. So I use a plethora of stuff, mainly for my style. And I know a lot of guys in our group use it. So, it helps them out as well. So try to be I use what I use, and that's what I base my stuff off of, and then I'll check to see what other indicators are looking like as well. But put more weight on what I use, of course, because that's why I am who I am. Let's see, and then these levels, these are just levels that I draw out based on what I know to be true. Yep, supply and demand, support and resistance. That'll be you can use no indicators and just use support and resistance, and that'll be your your key focus there. And I know traders that don't use any indicators at all. They just play the price action because price always pays. Price does not lie. If price is making higher highs and higher lows, you're in an uptrend. If you're making lower lows and lower highs, you're in a downtrend, and you should be shorting that market. Here, yeah, you're a little bit sideways, but if you can break above this 1950, off you go on T. So that's looking pretty good there. We talked about Meta just a second ago, Monster, PayPal. PayPal's pretty interesting. You had a lot of call buyers down here at 67.50. I'm sure they're even more filthier rich when they bought those calls down here. Nice move to the upside. Broke the daily 50. Like I said, these busted names, they can continue to outperform. Let's see, also like eBay's pretty interesting in itself. Like it above 47, it might take some time to get back above 47, but above 47, we could see about 49, maybe even 50. Airliners has had a pretty good run. Boeing and just powerful move. Usually Boeing's kind of a hard head to mess with, but this move has just been absolutely a rip. Let's see, Halliburton. This is going to be a focus. It's right up there at its highs at 43. Schlumberger, not Schlumberger, Schlumberger. Nice little breakout there. We've talked about copper. Yeah, Etsy is definitely on my long notes there for my scans. China, of course. As far as shorts go, staying away from XLV, staying away from XLP names for the most part. Pepsi had a nice little move to the downside last week, as you can see. We tried to hold this 176 zone, got busted below that. And now we're right back here to the daily 200. So just mainly staying away from those guys. Coke, great dividend name, but trading, it looks like it's got a nice little air pocket all the way down here to about that 60 mark. If you don't hold 60, it gets a little hazy. Coca-Cola. Oh, yeah. Let's go. Yeah, sorry. Let me push this. Yeah, 60. Yeah, it could even come all the way down to that weekly 200 there. Let's go over to Myrna. I definitely like the looks of Myrna. As far as Myrna goes, you had this nice little resistance zone about 190. You broke above that, and now it's just a matter of if we can continue to push on up towards that 200 mark. So I definitely want to watch Myrna. That's pretty much the only one in that sector I'll be focused on. Roku, good question. Yeah, Roku's one of those beat up names that I'd like to focus in on. Yeah, you had this nice little dip below prior support, and now you're back at it. You're up from 35 all the way back up to 50 now. Nice little close above the daily 50. Sure, I don't want to see it get back below 47. If you can get back below 47, then this thing could very well just scoot on back down to that 38 mark and then just get back into this range. I still like to see if it holds this 49.50 mark. If we can do that, then yeah, my next level here is going to be kind of obvious. 56, 58 zone to the upside next. Let's go to a weekly chart just to double check here. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you went from so beat up. You went from 490 to 38. Ouchtown population Roku. I don't know too many people that use Roku. I think my folks use Roku, but it's just yeah, this is not what you want to see. Definitely not what you want to see. Busted. Yeah, if you can get this continuation, maybe you see 62. You know, if you want to play that, sure. It could make for a good little day trade, maybe even a weekly swing, give or take. But as a long-term investor, you know, I'd have to look into the fundamentals. But I mean, there's you know, from 400 to 30, that's not good. And generally speaking, but yeah, I could play this level off. Yeah, no problem about that. But both, yeah, hold 49.65 and try to push towards this 55 to 58 zone and call it a day, maybe even 61. And I wouldn't hold it longer for any long-term period, but I'd definitely take this trade for sure above this mark here. And but if you get below this 47, I'm out. I'm out. Ain't got no, yeah, ain't nobody got, yeah, fundamentals. Nobody likes the fundamental word. Let's see. I feel left behind. Have I looked at Rivian? Yeah, indicators are laggards. Only price pays. Price and volume. Price pays volume second, then all your other indicators. Are you considered the open AI interest from Microsoft that I'm familiar with Well, I've read about OpenAI. I haven't like kind of dove into it, but that's those analysts. I don't. Yeah, not my cup of tea. You'll have to talk to them about that. You feel left behind. Look at Rivian. I looked at Rivian. Not much. I haven't. If I'm focusing on any EV, it's mainly been Tesla. Lucid had a pretty interesting day Friday. So is Neo. Neo's kind of interesting. As far as Rivian goes, yeah, you got this nice little tradable low, 1580. I'm not a player below that, that's for sure. It's still hard to be a player here, but you're at the lows here. Try to ride it back up to 1925. Once you get above 19 and a quarter, you got to deal with all these guys here, all the way pretty much to that daily 50. Let's take a look at the weekly chart to see what that's all about. Yeah, that doesn't give us much of a story, does it? Can you imagine this thing hit 179.50 on its IPO? Imagine being a buyer here. Don't want to be those guys. Let's see. Clear resistance at 40.86, 36.66 as well. Yeah, you can try to play off these lows. I'm not a too crazy breaking down below here because what is low can go lower. And where's your support? We don't know because it's never been there before. So you have to maybe use your Fibonacci extension levels to get an idea of where things might be. And let's play off of this here. Yeah, you're looking at a sub $6 stock. Look, I even have a I even have a ultimate target here at 46 cents. Man, the truth sucks. Truth is hard sometimes, you know. I'm going to leave that there. I want to see if that thing goes down to 46 cents. I know we got some. You traded that IPO. Oh, that's good. You don't have. I saw some Chat GPT stuff on my YouTube. I didn't watch it, but it looked pretty insane. Mulan did it. Mulan, Mullen Automotive. Yeah, you went from $4 to 40 cents. Sure. Yeah, Rivian. I'm gonna leave that target down there just out of curiosity. Could it? Of course, it's not gonna happen like tomorrow or next week or anything like that, but it could happen over time. Maybe something happens. Rivian. Don't we have some guys that drive a Rivian? I think we do. I don't know how they feel about that. I won't tell them that, but this is just a hypothetical. It's a theory. It's a theory. Technical analysis is a science, and this is a hypothesis. So, first target 660, overall target 46 cents. We'll see. Stay tuned. Let's see here. Yeah, Tesla, Neo. Go to Neo. Neo looks a lot better than Rivian. Nice little tradable low here off this. Oops, wrong drawing tool there. And then gotta switch it. Off of $9. Nice little tradable low. Your key spot next is pretty much going to be this 13 mark. You're kind of in the middle here, but you're above the daily 50. Not much of a mover. So it actually makes good moves for small accounts. Can easily play these little moves. Option exchange is not too bad at all. Let's see here. I think that's all I got for my own watch list. So yeah, if we want to go back over my personal watch list, watching Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft. Could watch Apple, of course. Microsoft has a larger market cap than Apple. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to go back and check that. But let's see. Oh no, they have a higher weighting. What does that say? Well, I'll go back in my notes. I'm kind of confusing myself now. Apple, not quite to the daily 50 just yet. Same thing there with Microsoft. We could get some outperformance from that if we do decide to push higher. But yeah, Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Starbucks is a big one on my watch list. Adobe, very tight. Myrna, nice little breakout above the 190 level there, above 190, looking for about that 200 mark. Psychological. Monster has their event next week. CRM, that's another big one for me. If we can get a push back above this 150 and retest 160. Would you consider the most recent candle on DD? Oh yeah, DD. You were talking about this one last week. We took a lot. A bullish engulfing candle. I would not. It did not close above Thursday's high, but it's still a bullish candle nonetheless. It still went outside day. It just didn't close above Thursday's high. Okay, so there we go. Shaman's got the data here for me. Apple is still with the largest 2.14 trillion market cap. Microsoft has 1.783 trillion market cap. So Apple's still the king there, king of the castle. So I was wrong. Let's see. As far as DD goes, dude, I still like this a lot. I like this setup above 75.33. If you can get a good close above that or a good hourly close above that, you're definitely in a good spot here. You had this nice push above 72. If you get a good pullback here towards the prior resistance and hold, yeah, you could use that as a launching pad and push on higher. So far so good on DD. It looks great. For the oh, DuPont definitely on radar as well. Let me write that one down on my notes while I have it. I haven't looked at the options chain. It could just be good for shares. I'm not a player in it, obviously, just yet, but I had my key spot here. I just don't think I had my alert set up. I think that was my main problem with this one because I was kind of mad that I didn't get in on it. So yeah, 72, looking for a retest or the breakout, either or, whatever suits your fancy there. Great looking chart. I like it a lot. So I definitely appreciate you pointing that out and reminding us of that chart. Booze. All right. Let's see where we are at. All right. To recap, if this then that mentality, yet again, let's take a look at futures. Okay, so futures did dump a little bit there, didn't they? Let's zoom in. Yeah, so we did have this nice little tight range between 40.17 and 40.10, 49. Nice little breakdown on futures for the time being. You had a little bit of a, they tried to extend it back up, but failed right at that prior support, hit VWAP as well, and sent it back down. Now, the main concern is we getting a little bit of a bear flag here that would send it back down. 4,000 held pretty well last week. We'll see if 4,000 holds up again this week or during the overnight session. NQ, similar story here. Everything's moving in unison. Couldn't break 11,600. Couldn't hold support. Nice little bear flag breakdown at support. There you go. You broke down. Came back up to retest support. Support is now new resistance. New resistance. Down you go. So yeah, a little bit of a ugly look for the time being. The dollar pushing on up. It's at 102.55. Remember 103 50, 103.40 is pretty much that zone that we want to see the dollar reject and push on back up. So we want to pay attention to that. But remember, have an if this then that mentality. Don't try to predict the future months in advance because no one really knows. Not even the best technicians. They don't really know. We play off our key levels and we go off of that. So year-to-date trend line, here we are yet again, round 4. If we can hold, we don't want to see 390 fall. Excuse me. We don't want to see 390 fall. If we lose 390, looks pretty good for the bear case. Above 395, go to 400. If we can clear 400, we can see 410. 410's a big spot there on the SPY. QQQ, same thing. Is this then that mentality? I don't want to see the Qs back below their daily 50. Otherwise, we can go back on down to maybe even retest this 270.50. This was our breakout zone here from last week. But yeah, nothing really good happens below the daily 50. We don't want to see, well, if you're a bull, you obviously don't want to see the bears take over. If you're a bear, you'll be happy and rejoice for that. But yeah, below the daily 50 or Friday's close, we don't want to see that. And then, of course, we want to take on this 283 to 285, 285 to 290 and 295, which is that daily 200. If this, then that. Let's see. And then, of course, the Dow is the king of the castle for the time being. And yeah. Any questions, comments, concerns? Leave it open. Got someone typing? Anyone? What's the football game looking like? Cowboys are winning 18-0. Watch out, Shaman. For those listening in on social media, we do have a sports betting group. Yeah, I think yeah, Cowboys are winning. That's how about that? What is it? Tom Brady has never lost to the Cowboys. I think that's the stat there. Tom Brady has not lost or hasn't lost to the Cowboys in like 6 seasons. Something crazy. It's third quarter, 18-0. He's old and he's retired. I'm just kidding. But all right, that's going to conclude it. I like to keep things under an hour. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My email is fuzz@stockguys.com. If you're on social media, be sure to hop on over to our main channel, like and subscribe, all that fun social media stuff. But all right, guys, I'll see you guys in the morning. I do have a just threw my pen. I do have a doctor's appointment in the morning at 8. Shouldn't take long, so I should be in right before the bell anyway. So we'll see. I hope that was caught on camera because that would have been awesome. Yeah, usually it only takes like 30 minutes. It's just a wellness checkup thing. Hey, how you doing? Great, good. How are you? Cool. See you in 3 months. But all right. I think that's it. I will send out my notes, my watch list in the Discord, and have a good night. And we will see you guys. Yeah, Sean said he'll cover for me. Yeah, if I'm running late. But yeah, shouldn't take me too long. But all right, y'all have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of the football game. Foosball's for the devil. And I will see you guys in the morning. Peace out. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you guys next time.